Hi, good morning and welcome. I'm Nicole Sanders of Early Intervention Therapy Services. I'm a developmental specialist, and so this morning I am here to talk about picky eating. I've been asked to speak about picky eating, and I have a good amount of experience with it, with picky eaters, and it seems to be a pretty popular topic for parents to talk about, especially with the younger kiddos. They are picky eaters. So I wanted to address it today and just do a really brief and quick video, nothing extensive, but just some minor tips that I've kind of learned that have helped, or different things that we can try with your kiddos just to start with at least. I'll do a very extensive video on this for my own personal YouTube, and so you can find kind of the extensive list there, or you can email me. But I'm going to do a short one today just to go over some things to help you guys, hopefully, and talk about some tricks for picky eating. Picky eating, like I said, is quite common, and so I don't want parents to ever feel like they're out there alone with picky eaters. I specifically get asked that question quite often, like, hey, my 2-year-old just won't try anything. We still have 2 and 3-year-olds on the bottle still because they are picky eaters, and that's the only way we can kind of get some source of supplements in them still. And so this is also quite popular among the autism community as well. We have noticed that kids on the spectrum tend to be on the pickier side as far as eating. And quite truthfully, again, I don't want parents to feel left out in any kind of way. Typical developing children also have some very poor eating habits as well. It's just the age range that we're experiencing it with. So I will give you some tips and tricks that I have tried along the way, some that have helped, some that have not helped, and I'd love your feedback as well as parents as to what you have found to be very effective and what's not been very effective as well. One thing that I would always start with, and this is what I always tell parents in the beginning, is to make a chart. If you have started to realize that your child is a picky eater, make a very simple chart that you can put up on the refrigerator, somewhere you can get to very easily, and start documenting it. Do like a 2-week time period to where you are documenting what you present your child. Did they eat it? Did they like it? Did they even try it? Put some things on there. You can make this simple. We are fast. We have a fast moving lifestyle. Most of you have multiple kiddos. You cannot do an extensive food diary. I call them food diaries. Sometimes we just don't have the time to do an extensive food diary. So just put something on the refrigerator that says, day, time, lunch, dinner, whatever it is. Put a check if they ate it, an X if they didn't. If you have time to do an extensive food diary, that's great. You can put it as detailed as possible. Like, he looked at it, he touched it, he didn't take a bite, whatever it is. The purpose of a food diary and chart is so that we can start to see patterns. What do they like? What do they not like? Is it a color? Is it a texture? Is it a taste? What are we seeing that they like and don't like? That way we know at least where to start with. We kind of have like a baseline of where to start with. So I generally tell parents to at least start there with making a food diary or a chart, just so that we can see what they are gravitating towards and what they're not. And sometimes parents already have, even without doing a food chart, I'll say, what do they like and what do they stay away from? And they'll say, oh, they only like crunchy things and they're staying away from all meats and all veggies. You kind of already know that. But starting with a food diary is a great way to start. So I'd start there. Second recommendation would be to make a routine. Keep it very similar each and every day. Pick a place that you're going to feed your child every day. Sometimes convenience is great, but sometimes we're running around with our toddlers trying to feed them, and that's just not conducive to trying to get them to get into a very structured routine. So put them in a high chair. Put them in a high chair every day, same spot, same place. That way they get into the routine of breakfast, I'm going to be in my high chair, or wherever you choose to, feed him or her at. But try to get like the same place, the same routine, the same time that you're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks even. Toddlers like to kind of eat on the go a little bit with snacks, and that's totally fine too. But at least breakfast, lunch, dinner, they know this is a set time that I'm going to sit down and try to work on eating, or try to eat as a family, or whatever you want to do. So I would start with a routine though. Consistent routine would also be good. Kids like consistent routines. Minimize distractions. So while you're trying to work on food as well, try to minimize the distractions sometimes. Now, this is something that I'd love your feedback even as parents. When I say minimize distractions, I say turn the TV off, kind of declutter a little bit. don't have it so chaotic in the household. Try to really focus on like you're just sitting there working on food, eating kind of naturally in your high chair, however the case may be. But try to minimize the distractions. I say this to say, I've also had parents who have reported, hey, the only way I'm getting my kiddo to eat is by having the TV on, because they're so distracted with, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse that they actually ate. So if that works, great. That's a great thing. If you can get them to eat anyway, anyhow, that's great. But I would try to at least minimize the distractions first and then go from there, kind of see how your kiddo works with that. Another recommendation I say is to respect their appetite, though. I have parents who, they're so desperate for their kiddos to eat, so they mean it in the best way possible, but they, we resort to the shoveling it in their mouth kind of thing. And so what I say is, respect the appetite. If your kiddo is a picky eater and they're presenting, you present food to them and they're just really denying it, we're going to respect that. We're not going to try to, trick them, basically. Let's skip all the tricking habits as parents. I say that because, as adults, we don't like that either. You would never want anyone to shove a spoon in your mouth. You would immediately be on the defensive, even if you liked it. Even if your favorite meal was coming at you. If somebody's sitting there with a fork or spoon trying to jab it into your mouth, you are going to become very defensive. A child is no different. So I always say, don't do something to your child that you wouldn't like as an adult either. So don't try the whole jabbing, let me just get it in your mouth, let me just let you taste it. That's typically not how kids operate if they are picky eaters. They're already eyeballing food. Before you even get it to their mouth, they've already looked at that food and said, I don't like that color. I don't like that texture. There's something about that food. It's new. I don't love it. So a lot of times kids who have either sensory processing disorder, kids on the spectrum, or picky eaters in general, they're already eyeballing that food and saying, no, thank you. So you trying to just shove it in their mouth, hoping that they love it, that they love the taste, that's usually not the best way to go. So I tell parents that, be very patient, but also respect their appetite. If they push it away, it's okay. We're going to be persistent. We're going to keep trying. But we're not necessarily going to shove it in their mouth either. Another thing is, I went to the seminar one time about picky eating, actually, and they blindfolded us and had us try all these different foods. And some people, professionals, were smelling it and saying, oh, I don't know what that is, so no thank you. And so they were saying that to say, even as adults, we're picky as well. We might smell something and say, I don't think I like the smell of that. I don't think I'm going to try that. Or we might be presented something at a dinner that we've never seen before and say, I've never had octopus. I don't think I'm going to try that. That doesn't look appealing to me. So even as adults, we're picky. So again, sometimes I say the patience, we have to be a little patient with our kiddos. We can't expect them to do things that sometimes even as adults that we're not going to do. So kind of put yourself in that situation too. That's how kids are doing it. They're smelling the food. They're looking at the food. They are already saying, I don't think I like that. It's not familiar to me. Sometimes we go off of familiarity, and kids are no different. So we just have to be patient and persistent with that and keep presenting the food, and hopefully, they'll try it at some point in time. But respecting the appetite's a big one with parents. Let's not try to overstep our boundaries with that. Make it fun. That's probably the biggest take home from this. Again, I'm going to try to keep this video pretty short. So if you want to start with a place, you're trying to present either a new food to a child or just trying to get them to expand their taste palette or anything, let's start with making it fun. So instead of trying to shove it in their mouth or getting overly frustrated because they're not even trying the food that you've prepared for them, try it in a fun and playful way. So if we have kiddos who are already picky eaters, we don't even start with the eating part. Sometimes we will just start with the playing part. So one instance that I always give is either Jell-O or pudding. Pudding is a great one to start with too. It's a texture one. Sometimes kids don't love the texture of pudding, but they might love the taste, but they don't love the texture of it. So they're kind of already eyeballing it a little bit. Put them in the high chair. It's lunchtime, but we're gonna play with it. We're gonna get messy with it. We're gonna put our hands all in it. We're gonna make a little arts and crafts thing, we're going to try to make it fun for them. We want food to be more of a fun thing and not a negative thing. So when we start to get frustrated as parents and they're not eating, it already has become negative to them. And so we want to just make it fun and playful and positive. So start by playing. If you're making brownies, have them kind of dive on in with you. Have them cook with you even. Try to involve them, if you can, in the process of it, so that it becomes a little bit more fun and a little less negative. So that's probably the biggest take home that I would recommend for parents of picky eaters, is at least start with play therapy first. Start playing in the food. Get a bunch of different textures, whether it's rice, whether it's potatoes, mashed potatoes, pudding, jello. Just get a bunch of different things and have fun playing with it. Again, that doesn't necessarily always work for everyone. Sometimes kids just really, even the textures are aversive to them and they don't even like the textures of it, and that's okay too. Again, consistency is the next big thing that I would mention. So as much as we want to make it fun, we want to make it consistent. So let's start making this part of the routine. And then once they've had enough exposure to it, then we would hope that they would try some of these foods. But consistency, persistence is probably one of them too. And so, yeah, I hope that was a quick kind of rundown of some suggestions that I would give parents to at least start with. Picky eating is extensive. That's why it's actually not great for a short video, because there's so many tips, so many suggestions, because picky eaters, it can go well beyond the bird's eye view, so to speak. So again, we have to really identify, why are they picky? What is it that they don't like? What textures is it that they're not liking? I worked with a kiddo one time who we did a food diary, and come to find out it was red things we started noticing. She had a very aversive reaction to anything red. So if it was spaghetti, no, forget about it. If it was raviolis, if it was any kind of pastas, anything red, she would push it away without even trying it. So come to find out it was anything red, which we started using food coloring, and that eliminated the problem pretty quickly, actually. So start with a food diary or food chart so that we can at least know, what do they gravitate towards, what do they like, what textures do they like, what colors do they like, and then we can go from there. But again, I wanted to keep this kind of brief and short today, because it can be very overwhelming for parents, and it can be a conversation that could last way longer. I've done sessions where we have only talked about food the entire session. But please try some of these things and let me know again, like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. I'm always interested in feedback from parents who are actually going through this. But again, please follow me on Instagram. I'm EITHERAPYSERVICES. Email me, EITHERAPYServices@gmail.com, and then visit my website and my YouTube, earlyinterventiontherapyservices.com, as well. I'd love to connect with you on this subject. It's a pretty important one for parents, but again, I will do an extensive video, a much longer one, that will go through individually things that we can work on as parents. But this was just kind of the top tricks and tips that I could give for picky eaters. So have a great day, and I will hope to hear from you all soon. See ya.